The morning sun filtered weakly through the thin blinds of my dorm room, casting long, fragmented shadows across the cluttered floor. My mind was still tangled in the events of the previous days. The clandestine drug deal, the sudden violence, and Luigi's sudden decision to step into danger. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a layer of the world I had been blind to until now, a layer both thrilling and terrifying. I dressed quickly, almost mechanically, my thoughts whirling around the image of Luigi, moving with that calm decisiveness, his hand guiding the trembling, inexperienced boy out of harm's way. I couldn't stop thinking about him, about how he had put himself in danger without hesitation. The awe and fear that had accompanied that moment lingered, a silent, constant hum beneath my nerves. Breakfast in the campus cafeteria was a muted affair. I barely noticed the chatter around me. The casual laughter of friends, the clatter of trays, the hum of conversation. All of it seemed distant, irrelevant, as though I were observing through a fog. Heather sat across from me, her fork paused halfway to her mouth, eyes searching. "Marco," she said cautiously, "you've been different lately. Distant. Is it something I did?" I shook my head, forcing a polite smile. "No, Heather, nothing like that. Just things on my mind." Her gaze sharpened, and for a moment, I saw the faintest flicker of frustration. Or was it suspicion? She had always been perceptive, more than most realized. "You know," she said slowly, "I hate feeling like I'm on the outside, like you're hiding things from me." I wanted to tell her, to share everything. The fear, the adrenaline, the undeniable draw toward Luigi, but the truth was too dangerous. She couldn't know. That knowledge would place her directly in the path of shadows that I barely understood myself. I shook my head again. "Nothing to worry about," I said firmly. She didn't press further, though I could sense the tension lingering, an invisible thread weaving itself between us. I hoped it would not unravel further. By late afternoon, I found myself wandering the streets near the alley again, drawn by a mixture of fear, curiosity, and an undeniable compulsion. The city, now bathed in the golden light of sunset, seemed both familiar and alien. I imagined the hooded figures moving through shadows, Luigi guiding, protecting, and vanishing into places I could not follow. And then it happened. A sudden shout, sharp and commanding, split the air. A struggle erupted in the distance, unmistakable in its intensity. My pulse quickened. I recognized the rhythm immediately: confrontation, fear, imminent danger. Without thinking, I ran, following the sounds until I saw him. Luigi. He was cornered, yet his posture remained fluid, controlled, his eyes scanning, calculating, anticipating. The young man from the previous encounter, now more confident but still inexperienced, crouched behind a crate, wide-eyed and terrified. Two larger figures approached, their intentions clear, aggression evident in every movement. I froze, heart hammering. The memory of the previous encounter rushed back. How easily things could escalate, how quickly danger could overwhelm. But Luigi, calm and commanding, seemed to hold the scene together with sheer presence alone. Then, in a fluid motion, he intervened. The first aggressor lunged, and Luigi sidestepped, using the attacker's momentum against him, sending him sprawling into a stack of crates. The second approached from the side, and Luigi, without hesitation, grabbed his arm, twisting, controlling, disarming. The precision was breathtaking, almost artistic in its execution, yet grounded in brutal efficiency. I wanted to move forward to help, but my feet felt rooted. I realized, with a mix of fear and admiration, that Luigi was a force of nature, calm and deadly, and that my intervention might only complicate matters. When the dust settled, the aggressors fled, cursing and staggering, leaving only silence in their wake. Luigi turned, his expression unreadable, though a faint sigh escaped him, almost imperceptible. "Marco," he said, voice low, This is bigger than yesterday. And it's not just about these men. They're part of an organized network. Dangerous, resourceful, and they know someone interfered." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Luigi, what do we do now?" He looked at me, eyes intense, a mixture of warning and reassurance. No, we wait and prepare. I've been contacted by people who understand the network better than I do. They want my help to navigate it from the inside, as a cover, to gather information to protect innocence. It's dangerous, Marco. More dangerous than anything you've experienced. I felt a wave of conflicting emotions. Relief that he was not harmed, fear for what he was about to do, and an undeniable pull toward him. A fascination I could not articulate. Luigi, if you do this, what happens to us? Tow everything. He sighed, a sound filled with weight, history, and unspoken truths. This path, it's temporary. I can't say how long, but know this, I do this because it matters, because it's necessary, and because I care about you, Marco. You're part of why I act, why I take these risks. Don't forget that. I wanted to speak, to argue, to tell him that none of it mattered if it meant he could stay safe. But the words caught in my throat. Instead, I nodded, understanding the gravity of his choice, the depth of the moral complexity he faced. The next few days passed in a tense blur. I continued my classes, moved through the campus with heightened awareness, and observed my surroundings with a vigilance that had become instinctual. Every shadow, every passerby, every noise carried the potential for danger. I realized, slowly, that the world had shifted, that I had been pulled into a narrative far larger and more perilous than any student life could encompass. Heather's attempts at conversation became increasingly strained. She sensed the change, the distance, the invisible line that had formed between us. Marco, she said one evening, voice tinged with frustration and hurt. I feel like I'm losing you. What's going on? You're someone else these days. I looked at her, torn between truth and protection. Heather, I can't explain. Not now. You wouldn't understand. And I can't risk you being involved. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and I felt a pang of guilt and sorrow. The complications of emotion, duty, and secrecy were now woven into every aspect of my life, complicating relationships I had taken for granted. Late one night, I received a message. Anonymous, terse, but unmistakable in its intent. It was from the authorities, confirming what Luigi had hinted at: the network was under scrutiny, and there were opportunities for cooperation, intelligence gathering, and disruption. The message was clear. Luigi's role as a cover was sanctioned, and there were channels through which I might remain informed, indirectly. I sat in silence, absorbing the implications. Danger, secrecy, moral ambiguity, loyalty, and unspoken feelings, all converged into a single, heavy reality. Luigi was no longer just my friend. He had stepped into a world I barely understood, and my own involvement, indirect as it might be, tethered me to the unfolding story. As I stared out the window, the city sprawled below me. I realized one truth with undeniable clarity. Nothing would ever be the same. The ordinary rhythm of student life had been irrevocably disrupted. Luigi's choices, his courage, and his moral reasoning had pulled me into a narrative of danger, responsibility, and unspoken emotion. And I, whether ready or not, was part of it. The morning after receiving the message from the authorities, I felt a restless energy thrumming through me. Sleep had been elusive, each hour spent tossing between anxiety and anticipation. My thoughts circled endlessly around Luigi. His calm decisiveness, the calculated risks he had taken, and the dangerous path he had chosen. I understood his reasoning, but understanding did little to quell the gnawing worry that gripped my chest. I got dressed, grabbed my backpack, and walked to campus. Every step felt heavy, laden with the awareness that my life was now tethered to events I barely understood. The familiar streets seemed alien under the lens of vigilance and fear. I found myself scanning faces, noticing details I had previously ignored: the nervous glance of a passerby, the subtle tension in a group of students, the hurried steps of someone walking alone. Danger, I realized, could hide anywhere. Heather met me at the campus cave, her expression unreadable. She had noticed my distance, my constant distraction, and though she did not press directly, Her presence was like a silent interrogation. "Marco," she said softly, placing a hand over mine. "You're miles away. You can tell me. I'm here." I shook my head, forcing a faint smile. "Hither, it's not something I can explain, not yet. Just trust me." Her brow furrowed, eyes searching mine. "Trust you? Marco, I've always trusted you. But it feels like you're shutting me out. What's happening?" I clenched my jaw. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess the danger, the intrigue, the magnetic pull Luigi had on me, but the truth was impossible to share. It would put her directly in the crosshairs of a world I was only beginning to navigate. "Hither, I'm trying to keep you safe," I whispered, voice barely audible. She pulled back slightly, the hurt in her eyes palpable. "Safe from what, Marco?" "Safe from what you're not telling me." I had no answer, only the gnawing awareness that my heart was no longer mine to control entirely. Luigi's presence lingered in every thought, every movement, a shadow I could not escape. Later that day, I met with the contact the authorities had arranged. A tall man, mid-40s, with a pragmatic demeanor and eyes that seemed to assess everything at once, handed me a folder containing information about the network Luigi had infiltrated. "This is as much as we can give you for now," he said. "You need to understand this isn't a game. These people are organized, resourceful, and dangerous. Keep your distance, stay aware, and trust no one outside the channels we provide. Luigi's involvement is sanctioned, but it's risky. Extremely risky." I nodded, absorbing every detail. The network was far more intricate than I had imagined. Names, addresses, meeting locations, coded signals. It was a labyrinth of human behavior, deceit, and survival. My pulse quickened as I realized how close Luigi was to the epicenter of danger, and how fragile the thin thread connecting him to safety truly was. Over the next few days, I began to notice changes in myself. I moved through campus with heightened vigilance, analyzing every interaction, every shadow, every movement. It was exhausting, but it felt necessary. My awareness of danger sharpened, my instincts became more precise, and my understanding of the stakes deepened. I also noticed the growing tension between Heather and me. She was perceptive, and though she accepted my evasions outwardly, I could sense the simmering frustration beneath her composed exterior. Our conversations became strained, each word carefully measured, each gesture laden with unspoken emotion. I loved her, or at least I thought I did, but the magnetic pull toward Luigi was undeniable, and my heart was increasingly conflicted. One evening, I received a text from Luigi. Just a few words: "Meet me at the bridge near the east side. Midnight." I felt a surge of adrenaline. The bridge was isolated, shadowed by overhanging trees and the faint murmur of water below. I arrived early, the chill of the night seeping through my jacket, nerves taut as wire. Luigi appeared like a phantom, stepping from the shadows with a fluid grace that made my heart race. His expression was unreadable, calm yet intense, eyes flicking briefly toward the water, then locking onto mine. "Marco," he said softly, "you shouldn't be here." "I had to come," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need to understand. I can't not know what's happening." He sighed, a sound heavy with responsibility and restraint. "There's not much I can tell you. Not yet. The network is dangerous. One wrong word, one careless action, and everything collapses. I'm under orders, undercover. It's not a place for friends, especially those I care about." I stepped closer, the instinct to protect him overwhelming. "I don't care about danger. I care about you. I need to be here to know you're safe." For a moment, he hesitated, the shadows of his moral dilemma evident, in the tight set of his jaw, the flicker in his eyes. Then he spoke, voice low and deliberate. "Marco, I appreciate that. But you don't understand the world I've entered. It's morally gray, treacherous. Trust is a currency, and betrayal is everywhere. If you involve yourself too much, you risk everything, including your life." "I'll take that risk," I said, my tone unwavering. "I can't sit on the sidelines. I can't watch you do this alone." He studied me, searching, weighing, measuring. Finally, he nodded slightly. "All right, but you listen to me and only me. You follow instructions, no improvisation. One mistake, one act of carelessness, and it could end both of us. Do you understand?" "I understand," I replied, though my heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The night stretched before us, quiet but charged with unspoken tension. We walked along the river, shadows stretching long and blending with the dark water, each step deliberate, each word measured. Luigi explained, in vague terms, the structure of the network, the dangers lurking in the city's hidden corners, and the importance of discretion. I listened, absorbing every detail, feeling both powerless and intimately connected to the unfolding drama. The more I learned, the clearer it became that Luigi's path was fraught with peril, yet he navigated it with a sense of purpose and moral clarity that both terrified and fascinated me. And through it all, a current of something deeper flowed between us. Trust, admiration, and a quiet, unspoken attraction that defied circumstance. Each glance, each word, carried weight far beyond mere friendship. It was a connection forged in danger, moral complexity, and shared understanding, a bond that neither time nor distance could easily sever. As dawn approached, we parted reluctantly, shadows of the city stretching between us. Luigi melted back into the night, leaving me standing alone on the bridge. Heart racing, mind spinning, I knew, with absolute certainty, that nothing would ever be the same. Heather waited for me at the dorm, concern etched across her features. "Marco, where have you been?" I forced a smile, masking the intensity of the night. "Just thinking. Walking needed." Some air, her eyes searched mine, sensing the hidden truth, but she did not press further. The tension remained, an unspoken acknowledgement of the world I could not yet explain. And in that moment, I realized that my life had irrevocably changed. Danger, secrecy, and moral ambiguity were now constants. And Luigi was at the center of it, pulling me into a narrative I could neither escape nor fully comprehend. The next morning, the campus felt heavier, charged with a quiet tension that I could sense but could not articulate. Every step felt measured, every glance surveyed for hidden meaning. My mind circled relentlessly around Luigi, the bridge meeting, and the precarious tightrope he now walked. The sense of anticipation was almost unbearable, like waiting for a storm to break, knowing it would be violent and irreversible. Heather appeared at the cafeteria, her expression a mixture of concern and subtle accusation. She sat across from me, her gaze unwavering. "Marco, you're distant. I feel like I'm losing you," she said softly, voice trembling ever so slightly. I swallowed, trying to suppress the gnawing worry in my chest. "Heather, I'm dealing with things I can't explain. For your sake. It's better you don't know." Her eyes darkened, and I could see the hurt, the suspicion simmering beneath the surface. "Better I don't know. Marco, I've always trusted you. But I can't trust someone who shuts me out." I wanted to tell her, to pour out the truth, the danger, the moral complexity, the magnetic pull Luigi had on me. But the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I reached across the table, lightly touching her hand. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm trying. Please trust me." She looked at me for a long moment, searching for something I could not give. Finally, she pulled back, the silent tension between us settling like an invisible wall. By late afternoon, I found myself standing outside the campus police station, my heart hammering as I waited for my contact. The building loomed large and imposing, its gray stone walls seemingly impenetrable. I had been instructed to come alone, discreetly, to discuss matters related to Luigi's involvement with the network. The authorities had stressed caution, the importance of secrecy, and the potential consequences of any misstep. A uniformed officer stepped forward, a folder tucked under his arm. He gestured for me to follow. Inside, the sterile, echoing corridors of the station heightened my sense of unease. Every footstep, every passing shadow seemed amplified. In a small, windowless room, I met with the officer in charge. His demeanor was calm but authoritative, eyes assessing me with a sharp intensity. "Marco," he said, "we've been monitoring the network. Your friend, Luigi, has been placed in a high-risk position. We need your cooperation, indirect but essential. You will act as a point of contact, someone who can provide insight without exposing yourself to direct danger." I nodded, swallowing hard. The weight of responsibility pressed down on me. "I understand," I said. "But, Luigi, is he aware?" "He is," the officer replied, his tone firm. "He understands the risks and has agreed to cooperate as a cover. But this is dangerous, Marco. Extremely dangerous. One wrong move, one lapse in judgment, and the consequences could be catastrophic for both of you." The days that followed were a blur of tension and preparation. Luigi moved with a quiet intensity, orchestrating meetings, exchanging coded signals, and navigating the treacherous landscape of the network. Each interaction was calculated, precise, and fraught with risk. I watched from a distance, my admiration mingled with fear, my heart torn between longing and apprehension. Heather became increasingly frustrated. She noticed the shift in my demeanor, the preoccupation that colored every conversation, every gesture. One evening, she confronted me, her voice tinged with desperation. "Marco, what's happening? I feel like I'm losing you to something I can't even see." I took a deep breath, struggling to find words that would protect her without betraying Luigi. "Heather, I can't explain. I'm involved in something dangerous. If I told you, it would put you in harm's way." Her eyes filled with tears, and I felt a pang of guilt. I loved her, but my heart and focus were increasingly entwined with Luigi. The moral complexity, the danger, the adrenaline. It was intoxicating, and it drew me closer to Luigi, even as it strained every other relationship. One night, Luigi came to meet me in secret. The city was cloaked in darkness, the streets empty and silent except for the distant hum of traffic. He approached with his usual grace, expression unreadable, yet his eyes flickered with something intense, concern, calculation, and unspoken emotion. "Marco," he said, voice low, "the authorities have confirmed my role. I am to act as a cover, gather intelligence, and maintain my position within the network. It will be dangerous. I may be away from you, but I need you to understand, this is temporary, necessary." I stepped closer, my chest tight. "Luigi, if you're in danger, I can't just stand by." He shook his head, a mixture of warning and gentle restraint. "No, Marco. You must stay back, follow instructions. One wrong move and it could end both our lives. You must trust me." I nodded reluctantly, the weight of his words settling over me like a physical presence. I trust you," I whispered, though the tremor in my voice betrayed the storm inside. The following weeks became a delicate dance of secrecy, vigilance, and careful observation. I attended classes, went to work, and tried to maintain some semblance of normal life, all while absorbing every scrap of information, every hint of danger, every subtle movement that could indicate risk. The network's reach and complexity became increasingly clear. Shadowed meetings, coded communications, and untraceable transactions that wove an invisible web across the city. Luigi's skill and composure were remarkable. Each action was deliberate, every decision measured, and every movement executed with precision. I watched in awe, my concern for his safety mingling with admiration and a growing, undeniable attraction. Heather's frustration grew. She confronted me one evening, her voice edged with hurt. "Marco, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you disappear into whatever this is. You're here, but not here. I don't even know who you are anymore." I took her hands in mine, voice strained. "Heather, I'm still me. But I've been pulled into something I can't fully explain. It's dangerous, and I need you to stay safe. That's all I can say." Her eyes searched mine, the unspoken question hanging between us. I could not answer fully. I could not reveal the extent of Luigi's involvement, the moral and physical danger he navigated, or the bond that had grown between us in the shadows. Instead, I simply held her gaze and let the silence speak. As the weeks passed, the reality of the situation settled like a shadow over my life. I understood with growing clarity that Luigi's path was fraught with risk, and my involvement, though indirect, tethered me to a world of moral ambiguity and danger. Yet in that tension, in the fear and the uncertainty, our bond deepened. Each secret, each careful exchange, each measured risk drew us closer, forging a connection that neither time nor circumstance could easily sever. And through it all, I realized a fundamental truth. Nothing would ever be the same. The ordinary rhythm of student life had been shattered. Danger, secrecy, and moral complexity had become constants in my life. Luigi's choices had pulled me into a narrative I could neither escape nor fully understand. And in the quiet, shadowed moments when I allowed myself to feel, I understood that I was irrevocably drawn to him, bound by admiration, fear, and an unspoken, undeniable attraction that would shape every decision to come.